Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Riverfront. This is episode number 446 of the world's most dangerous podcast, where we discuss the Cincinnati Reds and occasionally Logan Ondrusek. I don't know. I'm your host, Chad Dotson. With me this week is Nate Dotson. How are you, Nate?
Wyatt, I am rolling.
Oh, there you go. First reference of the night. We'll see how many more we can drop in. Before we go further, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, smash the subscribe button. And by the way, about YouTube, Nate, I thought this was interesting. I'm going to go ahead and mention this in the middle of my promo for our YouTube channel, youtube.com/riverfrontcincy. But anyway, so I'm on the YouTubes last night, as one does, and it feeds me Cincinnati Reds related content as every single platform I'm on does. And one of the videos, it was TJ Sports USA. I don't know who this is, what kind of account this is, but it's a picture of your boy Graham Ashcraft and speaking on the microphone. And here's the title. Maybe we need to do a better job of titling our episodes, is what I'm saying. Graham Ashcraft speaks after Cincinnati Reds defeated. Okay, that sounds okay. But speaks and defeated are all caps. Graham Ashcraft speaks after Cincinnati Reds defeated. I don't know. Just
sounds like they're really rooting for that 101st loss.
It sounds like it. So anyway, if you're listening to the audio version, why not subscribe? Have my dulcet tones delivered to your phone every single week. Plus, you can hear somebody knows what we're talking about. Nate, wherever you find podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google, everywhere. iHeartRadio is a thing, evidently. We're there. One last thing before we get into the content that you're here for. This show would not be possible without the support of our Patreon family. So if you want to go a little deeper, help keep this ship afloat, maybe get a couple goodies in the process, just join us. Patreon.com/RiverfrontCincy. Enough of that, because we have to get going here. We are recording on Thursday night, as we always do, and we have to go watch some foosball, right?
American foosball. Yeah, big matchup in Cincinnati tonight. The Miami Dolphins come to town. I won't say the hated Miami Dolphins, but there are some people that we have less than positive feelings for at the moment. Tyreek Hill calling out some Bengals players. So excited to wrap this up. Go down, plant in front of the TV. Already got permission from the missus to watch football for the rest of the evening.
It's beautiful.
She's a good woman.
She is a great one. You need to hang on to her as long as you can, my friend. So what I'll say is this. We're not going to talk about football here tonight, but I do want to say, if you've been following us, you know we do have a new Bengals show. It's titled The Riverfront Bengals Show, very cleverly. And it's no longer we've had it in this feed. If you're following the audio feed, it's been in this feed before. It's no longer. It's in its own audio feed. Go search for The Riverfront Bengals Show everywhere. And new episode came out yesterday. And so enjoy. Let's talk baseball. Actually, before we talk baseball, I have an apology to make. Which is how this is 446 episodes, and at least 404 of them begin with an apology. It's just, I put my foot in my mouth. So you mentioned on our last show that we were heading down to Austin, Texas. That's a whole different state. And to have, just to have a weekend down there. Well, I happened to text our buddy Carlos Guevara. Carlos, of course, for the Late Night Reds show, which is a great show that we pretend to have beef with all the time. You should go listen to that. Look for it on YouTube and watch and listen to those guys. But anyway, I happened to mention to Carlos, we're coming to your area, because he lives in the great state of Texas. And he said, well, I might be available on Friday. So, let me know what you're up to. And I said, yeah, I'll get back to you. I'll keep you in the loop, I think I said. And I proceeded to not keep him in the loop. I completely forgot about it until he started swearing at me on the Twitters. He used the swear words. No, he didn't really, but it's more fun if I say it that way because nobody likes the swears. Nate, how big of a faux pas was this, and how do I correct it?
It was pretty bad. I was promised at least potential for Carlos to join. Friday night was the night where I stayed up the latest and had the most fun. I think I might have drank what Carlos would have, so I represented in his stead Friday night. But it was terrible. Chad got my hopes up, and then he squandered them, completely ruined my bachelor party. Carlos, next time, me and you, we're leaving Chad out.
I was thinking, you're my brother and everything. You might, brother's got to back your brother's play, right? But instead, you completely stabbed me in the back. in favor of Carlos Guevara, which makes sense. I get it. I mean, we like him a lot, but so maybe I'm in the wrong. Carlos, I apologize. Austin was amazing. I was entirely too old to be there. It's clear, but everyone in that city is 22 years old. It's uncanny, but the food was amazing. The music, the comedy, we had a blast down there, and nothing but 2 thumbs up, I guess, for Austin, Texas, right?
Absolutely. Could not have been more fun. Unless Carlos was there. That would have been more fun. But moving on.
Right, exactly. So, Carlos, sorry. You're both ganging up on me. Okay, I think we've, successfully, we've done pretty well. We're 6 minutes in here, and we're yet to talk about the Reds, and maybe that's by design. the Cincinnati Reds. What's happened since we last spoke to you? Well, the Cincinnati Reds have played some more games, and those games, were not great games. 7 games since then, 6 losses. They did pick up 1 win against Milwaukee, but they lost 3 out of 4 to Milwaukee. And then, this is the heartbreaking part of it, swept again by the Pirates. That's 7 straight losses to Pittsburgh, 2 straight sweeps at the hands of the Pirates. The Reds are stumbling across this finish line, aren't they?
Oh, man. Stupid Pittsburgh. It is. It's been a rough September. There's only been 7 seasons in Reds history with a worse winning percentage than this current 60 and 96 team. 7 times ever. 6 of those happened before World War II. I don't think anybody was expecting much out of this team after the fire sale, but hey, bad baseball and losing baseball is better than no baseball.
Well, point of order. I'm not quite sure that's the case, but it's weird. An awful start to the season, as we documented here many times. And then the Reds actually had a stretch there in the middle where they were fun to watch. They competitive baseball, and with the roster they had, just playing around 500 baseball that's pretty good. And they did for a stretch, so that was fun. But now the team is just, they have no one left on the roster, and it's ugly. They're still, there's no game, obviously, it's on Thursday night here. So when you listen to this, probably on your commute Friday morning, as many of you do, or on your run or walking your dog, whatever you do. And people are still listening, by the way, Nate. I look at those stats and I can't believe it. Why? I don't know, but thank you.
We love you. We love you.
We do love you. But you'll see as you're listening, you'll recognize the fact that the Reds still have a chance to break the all-time franchise record for most losses. And I think, I don't want to root against the Reds. I don't. But 6 games left, 3 in Chicago, 3 at home, all 6 against the Cubs, the stupid Cubs. And if the Reds lose all 6 of those, they will have lost 102 games. The all-time franchise record for losses is in 1982 when the Reds were 61 and 101. So if they go 1-5, they can tie that. 2-4, it's a 100-loss season for only the 2nd time in franchise history. Don't you feel dirty rooting for that? Because I do. I want it to happen at this point, frankly, just because someone said it on Twitter. The Castellanos don't deserve to have a 98 or 99 win team. They deserve to have triple-digit losses, but I still feel kind of dirty rooting for that.
I got a loophole. You're not really rooting against the Reds, at least the Reds players, because only Joey Votto and Mike Moustakas are under contract for next year. So, and they're not even playing.
So technically, I'm not rooting for anyone that's signed to a contract for next year. It's true. It's true. And that's why in my next week's column in Cincinnati Magazine, I'm going to try to make the case that there is actually a clear path for this team to be competitive, not next year, but the year after. Mm-hmm. And a big part of that is because of all the money that's come off the books, because that's literally the only 2 players they'll have under contract for next season. Everyone else is either arbitration eligible or not yet arbitration eligible. And so, again, if you're looking for reasons to be, optimistic, again, you have to be able to trust this organization to execute on it. But there is a clear path, and we'll get into that probably some on the show next week. But for now, we're going to talk about where we are now, and the most exciting thing that happened this week. Absolutely the most exciting thing. Jose Barrero had a good game. I mean, can you believe this? Jose Barrero, and it's just 3 for 4. It's just amazing. At the time, I think he got his 3rd hit. I think it was the only 3 hits the Reds had that day as their 4-3 loss in 10 innings. but he took 2 at bats to 2 ball counts, 2 others to 3 ball counts. His last at bat, 11 pitches, did strike out, but saw 11 pitches. I refuse to take these little things to get excited about Jose Barrero, but I need something to get excited about this week, and that's what I chose. What do you think?
I love it. David Bell even had some nice things to say about his timing the game before, even though he went over 4 or 3 Ks. He had some deeper counts. He was showing more patience than he has in the past, grasping at straws here because it has been really, really bad for Barrero. Even though some new report came out apparently with like rating the strength of everyone's arms, all the position players' arms, and he has like the second best arm of an NL shortstop. So, I guess there's that. But I'm not losing too much faith in Jose Barrero. It's going to be a tough season. Tough season for everybody. But I just will throw out there that he was a highly rated prospect.
Yeah, I have a feeling that we're going to be
a highly rated prospect. So
that's where I was going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's what I was going to say. He's going to be our next Senzel. We're going to be like, well, he plays good defense. If he could just hit a little bit like he did in the minors, and then all of a sudden you're 27 years old.
Keep that in mind when you're getting excited about your next, high A second baseman or some crap.
That's why I was so critical of all the hauls the Reds got. Oh, they got a haul for Luis Castillo. Oh, they got a haul for Tyler Mahle. Okay, good. I hope they all turn into good players. How many of them have in the past that the Reds have acquired? How many prospects flame out? I do that project of just look at the Reds' top 10 prospects year by year for the last 20 years and see how many of them panned out. I'm telling you, it's way fewer than you think. So, but good. I hope all these great young shortstops do well. They're going to have to because that's the only path to a competitive team going forward. I guess we're going to look at the. I sort of said let's look at the standings, but I don't want to look at the standings. The Reds. Do we want to look at the standings?
I mean, not if you want to talk about the Reds. We can talk about some of the other teams, I guess.
I thought the Reds were absolutely in no danger of finishing in last place. I mean, I thought we had sort of put that behind us, and then you lose 7 straight to the Pirates, and now the Reds are 1 game out of last place.
Do you want them to finish last place at this point?
Sure, why not? Just to embarrass the Castellinis.
Get some higher odds for the top draft pick.
Oh no, I just care about embarrassing ownership. I don't care about that stuff.
Yeah, fair.
The Reds are 30 games out of first place, and Nate, the team that's in first place, just clinched the division. Did you just throw open your mouth a little bit?
A little bit. It made this high noon I'm drinking taste a little worse.
The St. Louis Cardinals.
Ugh.
All right. So anyway, the Reds are still have an outside shot at 101 losses to tie the franchise record. And that brings us to our first viewer mail question of the night. These questions come from our friends at patreon.com/RiverfrontCincy. This first question comes from James Urban. James asks, actually, he does have a question here, but he starts it out this way. Just a friendly reminder. We are officially on Tattoo Watch 2022. Will the Reds manage to fumble the bag to the tune of 100 losses and force Chad to get a tattoo or go back on his promise? Find out soon. Now, we have to litigate this here for a moment, okay? Because James did remind us on our Slack channel that you can be a part of, where we discuss everything, not just the Reds, but literally all kinds of nonsense. $2 a month for that. He reminded me that early in the season, and it would have been somewhere after the Reds started, 3-98 or whatever they started. Evidently, I made some sort of a promise, and I vaguely remember it after he mentioned that, but I'm not sure James has the details right. What do you remember of this promise?
I remember him bringing it up, and I actually went back and searched through the history of the Slack channel when the first time James ever mentioned this. It was July 5th. He brought this up, which is kind of sad because that means we've been talking about 100-loss season since at least the beginning of July. My favorite tidbit about this, and you can tell me what the facts are in a little bit because I don't care about the facts, is that Slack, another member of our Slack channel, Clay Christian, member of the Patreon family, he recommended what tattoo you should get. I don't know if you saw this or not.
I did not.
If you will look down in the overlay section, I might have snuck into the back end of this and uploaded it to this channel today. There's a
I
black
saw
and white
that.
photo down there.
I saw that when I logged on, and I couldn't figure out what that was.
This is the
So
tattoo that Clay Christian thinks you should get.
And if you're not watching on YouTube, Nate, can you describe it? It's
It
very
is.
handsome.
It is a picture of a coiffed out, collar popped, suited down Phil Castellini, sunglasses on, just looking as turdy as ever. Right before he asked you where you're going to go.
I'm not sure that's the tattoo I want, Nate. I have to object to that. What we need to do is, first of all, so James keeps saying that it's 100 losses but as I recall, it was 101. If the Reds tied the all-time record or worse, that I would get a tattoo. So I'm trying to weasel my way out of this, essentially is what I'm saying. So someone needs to go back into the archives. It's before July 5th, at least we know, sometime between then and the beginning of the season. And because I know you all are going back and listening to all these shows over and over and over again anyway, go back into the archives, find it. And if you can tell me which episode it's on, we'll pull it out and play it next time. And by the time we're here next week, we will know whether Tattoo Watch 2022 has been a success or a failure, like so many other things in Cincinnati. And Nate, I'm just not sure that that's what I'm going to choose, that the Phil Castellini.
Well, I guess that's your loophole. You said you get a tattoo. You never said of what. You can get something that you want.
We may have to crowdsource it. If it happens, we have to crowdsource it here at the Riverfront.
Get the billboard. Sell the Team Bob billboard on your
go.
entire back.
How do you know I don't already have that? James, how dare you pay attention to what we say here? I'm really upset with you right now. Other Reds news of the week. I guess we can talk about Hunter Green again. We sort of waxed poetic about Hunter Green last week, and he's still, just a really amazing since he returned. 3 starts. The Reds have lost all 3. It wasn't his fault, though. He has thrown 17 innings, a 1.06 ERA, 29 strikeouts against just 6 walks, just absolutely dominating. We don't have to really dive into it too much more other than to say, wow, he looks like, 11 strikeouts in back-to-back games. I don't know what to say. The guy just looks we've been waxing poetic about him all year. So, but anyway, Nate, any thoughts?
Yeah, just real quick, in September, that 1.06 ERA, a 0.94 whip. And I always talk on here about how much I like it when the whip starts with 1.0. Imagine how much I like it when the whip starts with a 0 point something. Get out of here. It's just insane. He's dropping it on anybody that he faces. 15.35 Ks per 9 too. He's been just outstanding.
Yeah, not much more you can say. Just unbelievable. I'm looking at the Slack channel, see what kind of wackiness you all got into today that I missed when I was actually working. Hooper Powell says if we hit 100 losses, we should have a top 100 favorite Reds podcast where we can all send in a vote.
I like it.
Or make it top 100 obscure Reds. Oh, that's pretty good. Pretty good idea. We'll do something special. What else this week? Luis Castillo, former Red. Luis Castillo. He was signed a contract extension with the Seattle Mariners. And I'm saying it like that because it makes me sad because it's a 5-year extension worth $108 million. That is a lot. That is not a lot for one of the best pitchers in baseball. It is, I think, a below market deal, below what he could get on the market. And the news came out that the Reds didn't really. The Reds did make some kind of an offer, but if they weren't going to make at least that offer, this is basically what everyone's saying, which I agree with. Then they weren't serious about really trying to sign Luis Castillo. And we got questions later. We might be able to talk about this a little more, but I'm happy for Luis Castillo. He's a likable guy, evidently a good teammate. Lots of money. That's generational money. Him and his kids and his grandkids won't have to worry about money ever again. But he could have been playing for the Reds for the next 5 years, and that really, really irritates me. That's me trying to avoid saying more filthier words. Nate,
It was bullcrap. I don't know how everyone doesn't agree with it. There are 18 pitchers this season making $20 million or more. Only 4 of them are actually having a season that is comparable or better than Luis Castillo. 13 of those 18 are on teams that were at least fighting for a playoff spot until very, very recently. 10 of them are on playoff teams. Good teams have guys like that on deals like that. It's under market value, and I just don't understand how you'd rather have prospects. I get enjoying both strategies. Like, hey, maybe it's not one or the other. Maybe the deal's worked out for both teams. Sure, I can certainly see that argument. But if you think that you can contend as early as 2024, and you also think that the Reds could have had him at that price, then I think it's infuriating. I mean, he signed through 2027 with an option for 2018 or 2028. That gives him a couple of years to steward the young arms, and then boom, right back in the thick of things for that stretch, the next stretch where we're all hoping the Reds are good and competitive. He could have been here. He could have been here, assuming he wanted to stay. There's always the caveat that maybe they did offer him. He just said, no, you guys are gross, I'm leaving. But if it was true that they could have had him for that number and they didn't, then it is front office malpractice.
Yeah. Well, you hit the point that I was going to make as well, which is that, it's logical for an elite pitcher who only has one shot at a career to be on a team for the first 3 months of a season that clearly is not trying to win, has no interest in winning in the near future. And he might not have accepted that deal with the Reds, whereas the Seattle Mariners, they've not had a lot of success in past years, but they're clearly trying. And so, where would you want to spend your next 5 or 6 years? Because there is an option in there. It's rainy in Seattle, but they don't have chili. Actually, probably they do have some kind of chili. I don't know. There's no in Washington. They got lots of hipsters, unless they've all moved to Austin because they were all there. So it's reasonable to say that, well, maybe he wouldn't want to sign for the Reds. I wouldn't blame him if he did. But if the Reds could, this is what worries is not the right word, because I have no faith in this franchise at this point. And none of you should have any faith whatsoever. If you want to hope, and we're all going to keep watching and we're hoping, that's fine. But won't be fooled again, said some modern day philosophers.
And if they had offered it to him, you'd think that there would be every single person in the PR department would be screaming as loud as they can. Hey, tell the fans, tell the public that you offered him this. That he said no. Like cover leak your own ass.
Yeah, Nick Kroll would leak it to the beat writers, who often are just basically stenographers and just transcribing whatever's said to them from the front office. Okay, but let's say that the Reds could have had him for that, or somewhere close to there. That's where it's the most infuriating. Now, it's a big if, because we don't know. But if the Reds didn't offer him that amount, then what we're saying is, to me, this says we do not intend to compete anytime in the near future, because kind of what you just said, if they're not going to compete during the window that he would have been here, and specifically I'm talking about 24 or even 25 and through 2027, that window there. If the Reds are telling us we're not going to be able to compete in that window, then guess what that means? It means Tyler Stevenson's window closes around 27. Jonathan India's window closed because they're going to be free agents. Hunter Green, Nicola Dolo, they're going to be getting to the end of their cost-controlled years. So what you're telling me is that we don't want this pitcher at this reasonable price. Again, lots of speculation here, but that's what we do. We could have this pitcher, great elite pitcher, at a reasonable price for a period of time when we expect to win, but we can't afford it. Well, you have no money on the books after this year. You have no payroll. You got like $45 million in payroll committed for next year. That's it. You can't fit Luis Castillo in that payroll. But then you're really telling me something
after that.
Exactly.
It's madness. It's preposterous.
Yeah. So if you want to believe,
have faith, then good for you. If you were living a happier existence than I am, I'm not telling you to change your ways, because you should choose to be happy. Always choose happiness.
Always.
But man, it is it's hard to look at the evidence and get too excited.
Yeah, I don't see any reason to think again, I said earlier, there is a path to be competitive in 2024 and beyond. I truly believe that if they have competent leadership and management. But show me the evidence. Show me the evidence that would cause me to believe that this team is ever going to be able to execute any kind of a plan. And again, I'm like Nate. Enjoy it if you want. I can't pretend anymore. So yeah, we're going to be watching some bad baseball. Can we not talk about that anymore?
Please.
How about Connor Overton's back?
That was exciting for the first 30 minutes. And then he played, and it was real bad after that.
Yeah, he gave up 5 runs in 3 innings pitch. So it wasn't exactly the Connor Overton that we've been pining for all these many months, just dreamily thinking about the return of Connor Overton. But good luck to him. Hope he comes back. Mike Minor's career is probably over in Cincinnati.
It might be over in its entirety. He said he's thinking about retiring.
Yeah, I mean, if he wants to retire, that's one thing. But I hope he goes somewhere. And I hope he pitches as long as he wants to pitch, as long as he's not wearing a Reds uniform. The Reds have an option for next year for Mike Minor. They're going to have to pay him $1 million to go away. So that's going to be $11 million. His $10 million contract this year and $1 million to go away. That you might as well just lit it on fire and burned it behind the pitcher's mound. Nate, my Cincinnati Magazine column this week was kind of a season review. We usually finish up the season with a season review and then a season preview the final week of the season. And this week it was the season review. And I spent several hundred words talking about reasons for optimism. And I felt like we kind of might need to dive into those a little bit, just quickly, because it gets into what I was talking about. The core of the 2023 Reds, next year's Reds. That's 2023 is next year. Some really talented kids. Jonathan India, Tyler Stevenson are legit. I believe it. India made me question it, but I'm going to put my cards behind Jonathan India again. Lodolo, Green, Ashcraft, Alexis Diaz in the bullpen. I mean, there's a good young. It's a small core. What prospect Ellie De La Cruz did this year was just unbelievable, and he was named in Single A Midwest League. He was named the most exciting player, best batting prospect, best power prospect, and fastest base runner by the managers, and probably going to win the MVP of the Midwest League. And if I've learned anything here today on the Riverfront, it's this: everyone who's a star in Single A ends up being a star in the major leagues. Is that what I should take?
Come on,
De La Cruz.
You wrote such a positive piece. I was about to give you all the credit for how far you've come after we just went on a 15-minute negativity tirade. It's like, no, let's bring it back around to the super positive, optimistic piece you wrote. we can't even get through that. No, but seriously, I mean, I am as excited about Ellie De La Cruz as any prospect in a long time. And then the other part of it is that, Nick Kroll, for all his insanity and inability to speak the English language very well, he had acquitted himself well with the return on some of these recent trades this year. 5 of the top 9 prospects, according to MLB Pipeline, were acquired via trade this season. So that's a big boost to the farm system. So some people have the Reds maybe even a top 5 farm system. So you got a good farm system, elite prospect Ellie De La Cruz. You've got a good talented core of youngsters. The other part we've been talking about, all this money coming off so you could really make a splash in free agency to fill in the holes around the youngsters that don't work out. And I fully trust the Castellinis to execute on this. Yes, I'm being positive. I'm positively positive about the Castellinis. I'm trying. They got you like a hostage situation going over there? Are you reading off of a screen?
Yes, absolutely. I don't know. Whatever.
I think next year could still be fun. I don't expect the Reds to contend, but if somehow they could get a little bit extra out of some of the those prospects that are close, the Christian Encarnacion Strand, who I think is just going to be an awesome, he's a big league hitter for a long time. Spencer Steer sticks. Matt McClain can see some time. And then maybe a late season call up by Ellie De La Cruz. I don't know.
Yeah,
There might
Noelvi
be
Marte. I mean, who's a number 2 prospect, came over in the Winker trade. We could
but
see him next year.
yeah, but look at the 2022 Baltimore Orioles. You know, they jumped their timeline a bit because some of the young guys just got hot, and I think sometimes that energy, that sort of that atmosphere with guys like that can trump bad leadership. You know, it doesn't have to start from the bottom or start from the top and trickle down. These guys can come in and electrify the team, the clubhouse, and then the fan base, and give us something to root for. Am I predicting that? No, but you don't have to squint too hard.
I won't get fooled again, Nate. I won't get fooled again. You're right. No, you're right. You're actually right about that. And it's not anywhere near the same situation. But the 2009 to 2010 Reds, when they took a big jump with the kids in 2010 and ended up winning the division, the Reds are not going to win the division next year. But there could be some fun things to watch, certainly. We'll detail those during the offseason. And I do, if they're not going to win, I would do want to see these kids. Let's get them up here. Let's play them. I'd rather see that than the Mike Miners and the Tommy Phams of the world. So remember those guys?
Barely, and not for long.
Nate, can we answer some viewer mail questions?
I would like nothing more.
We've already answered one, but before we get into the rest of these, again, these come from our friends at patreon.com/riverfrontcincy, where you too can support the Riverfront. Before we answer the questions, we've got, and this is what I love. We have a new patron this week. These guys, we hook them, and they never leave us because we have such a good time. And even in this garbage season, maybe he's just here for tattoo watch, but we have a new patron, and it is David Hurst. David did the full year, prepaid for a full year, man. And again, it's not that much money, a few bucks, but really appreciate him helping steer the ship here. David Hurst. Now you know what the prize is. One of the prizes for joining the crew here, joining the family. You get to be to accept your position on the Red Leg. This season's been long. We're not Red Leg Nation radio anymore. The Riverfront Beer League softball team. Nate, David Hurst. What's David's position on the Beer League softball team? I've got an opinion, but do you have something you want to lay out there first?
My mind immediately went from David Hurst to the Big Hurt to the Big Hurst.
Ooh.
And he's a slugging first baseman.
Right-handed slugging first baseman. I like it. I was going to say he was a somewhat competent left-handed starting pitcher. A la a guy from, I think, the 80s, maybe early 90s, Bruce Hurst. Bruce Hurst. Pull a name out of your old baseball card collection.
That's not bad, but who wants to be an obscure pitcher for the Beer League softball team?
I know. That's really not. Yeah, boy, he's regretting joining this team. So let's go with the Big Hurst. He's our slugging first baseman. David, the Big Hurst. Thank you so much. I'm telling you, I really appreciate your support and everyone's support here. The family that's grown up around this has been amazing, and we're happy to have you. Now, I haven't seen David check in on the Slack channel yet. Have you seen him, Nate? Have I missed him?
I have not. I'm sure it'll happen.
You have an
soon,
invite.
Now you've called him out in public.
I did kind of call him out. So, David, if you didn't get your invite, you should have received it in your email. Let me know. And come join us. We'd love to get to know you a little bit better. Or don't, whatever. If you just want to be the silent majority, that's fine too. First question here. These are viewer mail questions. As always, these are actual questions from actual viewers. First comes from Joey Gaditza. Hey, guys, Pittsburgh sucks. The fact that every team in their city is black and yellow is also pretty lame, I think. Yeah, okay, there you go. What's worse, hitting 100 losses or being swept by the Buccos twice?
First off, I want to push back on the black and yellow thing. I think it would be awesome if all the teams in professional cities were all the same color. I never understood why more cities did not do that. Granted, the Bengals being red and white would be odd, sure. They need a new name too, but I don't know. First thoughts. Other than that,
I agree with that.
I don't know. They both suck. I guess I can at least root for. I can't root for them to lose to the Pirates, but 100 losses is at least entertaining.
Yeah, why not both? That's what I say. I want both of them. No, I don't want either of them. No, lose. I don't ever want to lose the Pirates again. I hate losing the Pirates. I hate losing the Pirates almost as much as I hate losing to the St. Louis Cardinals. Really hate losing to the St. Louis Cardinals. But yeah, the Pirates. So I'm going to say losing the Pirates is worse. But if it helps you get to that 100, I don't want 100 losses. I want 101. We want history, tie history. I don't need just garden variety 100. Kyle Kapler, did you want the Reds to re-sign Johnny Cueto back in 2015? If so, how is the 2015 or 2016 current roster any different than the one they have now? And how different is the organization then than it is now? Let me tackle this one quickly, Nate, then you dive in whenever you want. First of all, there's sort of this misconception that I've heard. I'm not saying that Kyle was saying this, but a lot of people, when they were complaining about Homer Bailey being signed to that extension, were like, why didn't you sign Cueto to an extension? Well, the fact of the matter is, people forget, the Reds did sign Johnny Cueto to a contract extension. It was a 3-year extension, but it bought out some of his, I think 2 of his free agent years, maybe 1 or 2. But anyway, it was a 3-year deal. And so the Reds did sign him to an extension. Now, I did want the Reds to re-sign Cueto in 2015. Many people are revisionist historians and say, I didn't. I wanted the Reds to trade him earlier so that they could have gotten more. And it's true. If they had traded him sooner than they did, they would have received more than Cody Reed, Brandon Finnegan, and Luke Duke. I think was the name of that guy. He was one of the Duke boys. I don't remember. And so I did want them to sign him, but I am a hopeless kind of, fanatic. That's why I should not be running this team. I'm saying that out loud because there's a real chance that Bob Katzman is going to ask me to come run the team, I'm sure. Boy, I can't wait to be in the same room with him at some point. It's going to be fun. So I did want the Reds to re-sign Cueto. I understood why the Reds didn't do it, but you know what? If you look at it, and our buddy Carlos, and again, I apologize, Carlos, on Twitter today said, if the Reds still had Cueto this year, Johnny Cueto's numbers, basically Nick Lodolo plus 30 more innings or 50 more innings or something, and then at All-Star. So I think it would have worked out for the Reds. Now, the second part of that question, because I'm rambling as I do. How is the 2015 or 2016 current roster any different than the one they have now, and how different is the organization then than it is now? Now, how different is the organization? I'm not sure that I think leadership in the front office is not as good as it was around 2017 or so when Dick Williams really took over. I don't trust Carl like I do Williams. He made mistakes, but he also did a lot of things right and had to fight ownership. Carl doesn't have the sort of ownership angle to be able to fight back against any of the Castellini's nonsense. But I do think that the Reds' current roster is in a lot better shape. Again, I've talked several times today about there is a clear path to a good team. And you couldn't really say that in 2015 or 2016 because a lot of things had to go right. And the Reds, when they were trading all those guys, were trying to get guys that were almost Major League ready, like literally within days Major League ready. They didn't get any lottery tickets. They didn't really get any elite prospects hardly from any of them. They really screwed up almost every one of those trades. Whereas now, I don't think you can say that. Now the haul that Crawl got from some of these players may not work out, but I think no one would compare what they got back from those trades before the last rebuild and what we got back in this current rebuild in terms of the quality of prospects. This year's are better. So I think the Reds are in a better position now in some ways. They've got lots of roster flexibility, and they maybe didn't have as much of that back then, at least not as much as now. So, again, I mean, if you're looking for reasons to be optimistic, and that's all we ever do, yeah, if the management can execute, good. But the problem with this question, how different is the organization then than it is now? It all comes down to there's Castellini's in charge. And how long are even if Nick Krall has become the best GM in baseball, how long do the Castellinis go before they make him veer off another direction? It's happened every single time the Reds pick a plan and go one way. The Castellinis come in, stick their noses in it, and make them go a different direction. So as long as Castellini's in charge, I'm not going to believe that it's different. But I will say, to finally shut up so they can talk a little bit, I will say they're in a better position if they choose to execute on it.
Yeah, I couldn't possibly add too much more to that. All I will say is that keeping Cueto would have been freaking awesome. Signing him just for this year in his $4.5 million contract, if I'm not mistaken, would have been awesome. Yeah, he's already a Reds favorite, probably a future Reds Hall of Famer. Imagine how much more that would be solidified if he had been on the team this whole time. He statistically hasn't been much worse than Luis Castillo this year. He's been awesome, and he's been typically hilarious and fantastic on the social medias. I don't know. As far as the roster differences, you crushed that, but I would love to still have Johnny Cueto on the Reds. Bring him back next year.
Yeah, I'll take him until he decides he wants to hang him up. He's one of the most likable players. I talked about likable players in my newsletter, chaddotson.com. Again, all I'm doing is promoting myself, but go subscribe. It's free. And last week I was talking about most likable Reds, and I left Cueto out of that discussion, and now I'm really kicking myself because that guy was just delightful. He's still delightful, and his Instagram is amazing. He put a picture of his dead horse on his Instagram. It's just laying on the ground. Who does that? Johnny, we miss you. We miss you. Next question.
And your horse.
We miss you. Oh, definitely miss you. Rest in peace. Cueto's horse. Next comes from Seth Shaner. I like this question, Seth. I said something on the Slack channel in March about apathy and was shouted down a bit. Now, hold on. Does anyone shout anyone down on the Slack channel? I've not seen that. So I hope that the behavior wasn't happening on my watch, but maybe there's some pushback. For some, being apathetic means turning their backs on the team from day one. Not me. I still can't quit this team, says Seth. But this September is my version of apathy. I tune in to see how the Reds are doing, but back to school, youth sports, and the arrival of football keep me from being completely dialed in. It wasn't this way in 2010, 2012, and even the shortened 2020. It reminds me of a girl I knew in college, says Seth. She looked just like Jonathan India. I don't even know what that means. He didn't say that. She didn't have time for a boyfriend until she did. And then she was all in. How soon do you expect me to be all in again? Seth, I expect it in April. We're all going to be back here, and the Reds are going to win 2 of their first 3, and we're going to be like, oh, you know what? Maybe they're good this year. I don't know. Well, I think we're going to be all in as fans. But it depends on your definition of all in, because we're in the back of our minds, we're going to be like, well, I know they kind of suck. But still, that's our laundry that they're wearing. When are you going to be all in for a team that really, like 2010, 2012, you said? 2025 if things go well. 2024 if things really go well. But I'm not going to hold my breath. But I don't know. It's your team. You're still hanging out with us goofballs at the end of a 100-loss season. So you're still partially in. And your attention's going to get diverted. I'm glad we have the Bengals. But Nate?
Winters in Ohio are kind of gross. Spring is going to be coming up, and then with that, spring training. And there's going to be 2 weeks leading into spring training where we are all excited and optimistic and happy, even if we're being realistic. And then that'll calm down a little bit. And then April rolls around, opening day rolls around, and we're all going to be waxing poetic about the joys of baseball, and we'll be all in again. We'll be all in until they're out of it. Hopefully that's, later than April.
Yeah, Joey Votto presumably will be back.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler
maybe
Stevens
for the
will be
last
healthy.
time. This could be Joey Votto's swan song.
Right.
I'm all in on that today.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not all in on him stopping his career, but an opportunity to just enjoy what time he has left. Absolutely. So good question, Seth. Jordan Salisbury says, gentlemen, I hope you survived the bachelor party. Did we survive, Nate?
I just started feeling back to normal today.
Anyway, says Jordan, I was wondering if either of you can share a story of a Reds player you've met or a past Reds player you've met, and the interaction had been less than charming or ideal. Basically, a player who wasn't that fan-friendly. Well, I'm going to say something that's going to sound incredibly pretentious here, but, this is 446 episodes. You already know that I'm pretentious, so we're not breaking any new ground here, Copernicus. I can't say that I've had a bad interaction because I've had very few interactions with players. And the reason is I've never really been an autograph guy. I asked for one
It's true.
autograph when I was like 8, and it's because everyone else was doing it. So I went and got Eddie Milner's autograph. I've told that story before. It was on my glove, and I promptly left it out in the rain the next week, and it washed away. The autograph, not the glove. I wish the glove had, because it was worthless to me anyway. I didn't know how to play. But so I've had a few interactions here and there over the years. I mean, Bronson Arroyo's just incredibly nice. But no bad ones, because I really have not. I've not sought out interactions. I don't go try to get autographs. I don't try to, at Reds Fest, I don't get in those lines, or, I did get in line at Reds Fest one year for a photograph with Dusty Baker, just because I thought it'd be hilarious, as much as I criticized Dusty Baker, to have that photo. And it's pretty good. I got to dig that up. But anyway, Nate, what do you think? Any interactions?
I was thinking about how this might have gone, and I was looking back at all the games I've been to. Fellow patron that I mentioned earlier, Clay Christian, he once ripped a couple shots at a bar with Johnny Cueto. So that was a very positive interaction. There was one time when I got starstruck standing outside of Great American after opening day, and then Adam Dunn drives by, rolls down his window. Me and a buddy were both wearing Adam Dunn shirts, and we just didn't know what to do in the air and yelled, "Dunner!" like a bunch of goons. And he just waved and rolled his window up and drove on. So, thought about that plenty of times before bed. I was like, man, I could have tried to be his friend or something. I don't know. It's terrible. But the only real negative interaction I ever had was Pete Rose. I was in Vegas, zombie walking over to a hungover brunch, and my pals obviously know how much I love the Reds. They point Pete Rose out to me. He's over there doing his little autograph thing, and I immediately perked up. I was like, "Oh crap, that's Pete freaking Rose." He looks over and just says something along the lines of, "Pictures are $50. Don't hold up the line." I was the only person in the room. There was nobody else there. There was no line to hold up. It was just me, and I hadn't been there long enough to be like, recognize that was Pete Rose before he told me to give him money or get to moving, get to fighting, or
get away. Yeah, that's funny. Rich Thompson, who we didn't get a question for Rich this week, but he has told me a story in the past of when he was a kid having a really bad interaction with Pete Rose, and a similarly good reaction with King Griffey Sr. I will say that I did have one other interaction that was almost really bad. It was almost fatal, as a matter of fact. I was driving away from the ballpark one day and came within mere inches of hitting someone riding a bike illegally, trying to cross the street in front of me illegally, and just about died. And it was Tony Cingrani, former Reds pitcher, Tony Cingrani. So I nearly killed Tony Cingrani once. That wasn't good. And I'm sorry if you are not watching the YouTube broadcast, because I'm going to show the immortal picture of me and Dusty Baker.
Hey.
Glorious.
Amazing. He looks genuinely good to see you. Glad to see
right. He had no idea what I'd been saying about him on the internet all those years. Dusty, though, we miss you, man. I was wrong about you, buddy. I was wrong about you. All right. Good question. Last one comes from our buddy Branch Brown. Branch, Pittsburgh still sucks. And does it frustrate you all that with all the hauls the Reds have gotten? And if you don't know what a haul is, you've not been listening to us, but just so I can tell everyone, the haul is when Nick Krall makes a trade and they get a lot back, everybody's like, "Oh, the Reds got a haul." Like we care about hauls. But anyway, with all the hauls the Reds have gotten, there's a frustration. They still lose in the minor leagues. And I'll let you answer, Nate, but my initial reaction is not really. If I lived in Dayton or Chattanooga or Louisville and we're watching that team, I'd prefer they won a lot. And Rich Thompson, I mentioned, he sent me a message the other day, kind of looking at the minor league wins and losses of the teams that are playoff bound this year, and he says, "Oh, it looks like there's at least this year a correlation. If you do well in the minor leagues, you're doing well." I don't know if there is a correlation. I'd like to dig into that further, so maybe I should care more. But it comes down to where until they put on that wishbone C, I try, but I can't get too excited unless it's Ellie De La Cruz. I can't get too excited.
Yep. That's it for me. I mean, they're trying to do so many things down there. I mean, you might have think of spring training. You got a guy working on his new cut fastball, so he just throws that every single pitch for 3 innings. They're not trying to win the way a major league team is supposed to be trying. And guys are moving around so much, and I don't know. If I'm at the game, sure, I want them to win, but otherwise, the stats matter more to me than the records.
Right. But I mean, I think it's at a fundamental level, I guess, if you have really good players in the minors, so you have a good farm system, you're probably going to win more. So I guess it does matter, but winning is not the top priority for any of the the management down there necessarily. And so, I mean, it's a priority, but it's not the top priority. So, it does not frustrate me, Branch. I got plenty of things to be frustrated about with the Major League Reds without worrying about the minor leagues.
Branch Brown, by the way, is a very, very strong name. Big fan of the name Branch Brown. I'm going to name my first son Branch Brown Dotson. It's happening.
Please do. I thought you said you were going to name him after me. Oh, no, you were until I screwed you with the whole bachelor party thing this week. Sorry about that.
I might name it Branch Brown Carlos Dotson.
Oh, God, poor kid. Nate, any final thoughts for us here before we go watch the Bengals beat up on the Miami Dolphins?
I don't think so. I mean, is this the last podcast of the regular season?
I guess it technically is. The last game is next Wednesday, and so we record on Thursdays. So this is the last. This
has been fun. We should have we'll have a season recap episode. Need to go back and look at some of our preseason predictions and see how those panned out. I'm not very excited about digging those up, but I don't know, man. Somehow, despite all the odds, sitting around with you for an hour talking about baseball and answering these questions from other similarly insane people is one of the better parts of my week. So,
yeah, even we've marveled about this privately, but even in just a garbage season like this, in a lot of ways, I've never dreaded coming out here just talking baseball. And I don't know. There's enough fun stuff around this team that makes it worth it. But now we get to go all in on the Bengals, I guess, and whoever your favorite college football team is. For me, it's the Bearcats. Particularly, my favorite college football team is Xavier. That never lost a game, and so that's who I like. But I lost my train of thought, Nate. Are we supposed to end now? Is that where this goes?
FC Cincinnati, yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Thanks to everyone for listening to and supporting the Riverfront. Please remember to subscribe to the show either on YouTube or in your favorite podcast app. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We're at Riverfront Cincy on all those platforms. And once again, huge thank you to our supporters at patreon.com/Riverfront Cincy. The show would not be possible without your support. Nate, this was fun, man.
Always is. Go Reds.
Go Reds. For Nate Dotson and Logan Andrusek, this is Chad Dotson saying, so long, everyone.